In previous videos, we talked about some of the basics for preparing for something like a Chinese invasion. People in Colorado, for example. We talked about the importance of, if you're going to have a meetup group, you don't talk about it on Facebook. You don't just make jokes about, like, don't talk about something Fight Club, ha ha, he he, meme. No, you apply that. What don't you talk about online? You talk about your ultimate plans. Okay. The places in which many of us are at now, this is where we are now before the event. While we do our work online and in other ways. Things may need to change tomorrow, or it may be necessary that we stay exactly where we are. And we take our chances with the wildlife in both human and non-human forms. Physical and non-physical. So let's talk about what other people need to focus on. You know, a lot of people have made a mistake of overestimating people in the armed forces and people that get into leadership, and underestimating the one-man army, the lone wolf. Notice now they're trying to make like the lone wolf like a bad thing. Ooh, the day and age of the lone wolf. Watch out for the guy who doesn't join into the group mind. The group mind's polluted. The world is teaching us ultimately opposite values. Y'all have people in your own government taking money from the Chinese. Like, is it Mallory? The individual who was on a trial for giving secrets to the communist Chinese. And this keeps happening. White people in power keep selling out their own people to big money. So it's time, as a result of that, that people go beyond the racist programmings. The real reason they manufactured certain types of extremely divisionary memes that destroyed friendships and really the truth movement. They did that so we wouldn't work together. People need to understand, communities in America need to understand, intelligence is intelligence. There are ways in which people prove themselves. And there are ways also in which people show themselves to be selfish, opportunists. I look at what people like on YouTube right now. They could be like a YouTuber that they like, or a group of people like, and he could be like really talking down to them. But for whatever reason, because he's playing that persona, it seems, at least I'm perceiving, he'll get away with more than I ever could in a million years while holding big time numbers. Why is that? Because people right now in our society have been brainwashed as to who are the people that may have answers for them, and it's not about one person. It's about a human, abstract, collaborative effort. You know why I liked cable access back in the day? Why I really appreciate it now, looking back? There wasn't an algorithm to stop me. So I felt that confidence and inspiration each week doing a show because I knew people saw it. And people once in a while let me know that they cared, that they were there watching. There's certain times in the 2000s, we talked about this, where people even wanted to meet up. And a higher percentage were decent people. And in recent years, there's been more sabotage, there's been more mental illness. There's been more questionable folks that are the first people, in some cases, to reach out to some of us. In many cases, it's not right for us to get wrapped up with people that we know nothing about, and especially with people that may be only looking at us one-dimensionally, physically, or just at one element of our content. Like, this is a relationship channel. This is a channel that's hopefully giving people information that can help them survive and evolve spiritually. Relationships will always be a part of that conversation, but it's never a centerpiece. The personal satisfactions that come from the world of physicality is not enough to satisfy me and be a centerpiece issue for me, unless that person or those people, this includes platonic friendships, this includes bros that I may hang out with. It's not compatible for me to be with people or to hang out with people or to share space with people that are on another plane of consciousness. I'm not in this world to interact with people that call me crazy. I want to see where my work is respected in the world of organizations and humans. Okay, because without that, we see trajectories either go one way or down. Just like you're familiar with Bitcoin bear runs or bull runs, things of that nature, silver. There's times where it's going up, there's times where it's going down. The same could be said about trust between us and a sense of community. So when we talk about things like the progress reports, zero engagement on things that I may do outside of the main high-tech social media, big tech spectrum, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, things of that nature. The question is, where are things being done outside of the internet? Not just those platforms, but outside of the internet. Outside of the internet, where there are literal trial runs where people go grid down for multiple weeks and they have to find a way to get to each other. So I know that I have a lot to offer those people that are going to be part of the resistance in the Rocky Mountains when we're dealing with this world event situation. But it's at a disservice for anyone to be programmed by Babylon and to be fearing the wrong people as the real invasion approaches. I mean, there is actual healing that needs to take place now, as we're seeing things that we've never seen before. The next level of the Trump support base going, what the fuck, as his tariffs are set to really hit the American farmers in the heart to the next level. There are major questions taking place as to whether or not some people will have their farms by fall or next year. And it takes some time for the cost of food to really kick in, but kick in it does. And when it does, you know, it is kind of like an avalanche. When it rains, it pours. And so the main point here in this video is that intelligence gathering is valuable, and it needs to be respected when it's done by people that have spent their lifetime doing it. And intelligence gathering, intelligence assets to people that are part of a resistance to something that their own government is not preparing them for, nor their own favorite media outlets. Your own favorite media outlets don't have a track record of talking about this stuff 10 years ago. They're talking about different scenarios. That's a fact check. I speak to like very few people. In a way, I'm grateful that I don't have a big, there's a lot of darkness that comes with being a big time YouTuber. And not every YouTuber is able to maintain a true spiritual, in my opinion. And I don't know these people behind the scenes, but I'm just giving you my best guess. And some people I have met. I have met the real people behind the mask in some cases. And so I do have an honest opinion that I keep to myself, actually. But I see that other people are not so savvy with discernment, with what channels they listen to, people they hang out with, things of that nature. A lot of people are in the so-called truth movement for the hits, for the wrong reason, for the narcissism. They're trying to heal something in their own life that's broken, that they should be healing on an individual level, not trying to become some sort of a YouTube god or survival grid down god. These archetypes keep shining through our fellow humans. And yet, we have yet to see humans evolve on a collective level to where they stop making the same mistakes of judgment. So when it comes to intelligence, this is not just advice for military men and women. This is advice for people that are spiritualists and New Agers. I'm not attacking you if you're a New Ager. I identify as you do with the energetic body and the idea that we need to have a shift. We disagree on the true state of consciousness of our planet, or maybe some of you do have great concerns like I do. And if so, right, there needs to be healing between us. There needs to be healing between all of us for us to be able to plant those first seeds of a permaculture garden. I don't care if we are just simply planting, there's all kinds of seed kits where you may be able to plant some lettuce real quick and get something like even towards enough peace to where we're coming together at the place to where the wood pallets are, to where we get the water, to where we turn the soil, to where we put our hands in the same soil. Now that right there, to put the hands on the same soil, on the same land, a lot of people are breaking out in like this gang pack mentality. Like people can talk all they want, talk. I'm from Portland. I've already seen this crap. where people try to wave a flag like they're community people, where they're accumulating things for themselves, for them and theirs. Where you have the people that act like they care about the homeless, but they want to raise millions and millions, and they want to dictate how those millions are going to get spent. And it's like, these people keep popping out of nowhere like these crazy jack-in-the-boxes. Give me all your money. And then I see the masses, the male and females, that like to take out their jock straps and their bras and throw them to the YouTuber on stage who's screaming at them like a death metal concert. And I see for years people, really, a lot of new agers have been dishonest with me for why they've thrown my content under the bus. They need to correct their judgment, because this is a society, a tribal society, that'll tolerate people being emotional. They'll tolerate a lot of things. They'll tolerate even, somebody pulling their hair and smack and talk to them. And they will be dishonest with someone that they're judging about why they're judging them or throwing their content under the bus. And people need to start evolving and realizing that they need to stop being defensive about racism and realizing that these robots are being programmed to carry out the worst of the worst. These algorithms are dishing out high-tech racism and are barring some of us from reaching some people. So I've seen in recent years, I can look at full spectrum survival channel or the higher spiritual self, and I can see how through the tribalism, they can take the same concepts that I talk about and get 100,000 views. Things that I've talked about with you for years are happening. And it seems that no one remembers me. It seems that I would have no allies in the end in any alternative media truth movement. In a way, it would be good, because a lot of these people have changed, people that I've known. I mean, do you realize it's a pinch myself moment when there's someone at one point that retweeted my content that our own president speaks highly of, and how strange that is? Saying that again slowly in another way, rubbing elbows with people or contacting people in the past that reshared my content that today the president is homies with. It's almost as if they were traps laid out for me early on in the alternative media to be one of them. How could I be one of them, though? Trapped in the illusions of separation. I'm the kind of human, they're acting like if there's more people like me, it's the end of the world, the end of Western civilization. If you were to take a combination of my genetics or a multiple clones of Alex Ansary, connecting people from those countries that my parents stem from, my mother, right? Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, or green-eyed, all-American girl, and then my father. And because of that one difference, and because I would be really thrown off by the illusions of separation, I would stand alone. In the end, it would set me free. Would I be so lucky if I wasn't so different on those lines? Would my content then and warnings then maybe be more received, and my content plastered all over the biggest websites? But is there a trap in that? As the biggest websites come up on the radar. What I've come to see in my experience is that the vast majority of everything that I've warned about regarding geopolitics, for the most part, is in the wastebasket. Without a real conversation about how algorithms can do this and reward people that come from out of nowhere, they're going to be more liked by the tribe, by the dominant tribe, by the real dominant tribe demographic. Not the fake one that's presented on Facebook, but like the real demographic that I live in, where I, just by being different, can talk to people about this and it not be seen as relevant as Fox News. And so that's all pretty strange to see that. But there's also the spirituality and evolving beyond that. One would say the ego. But there's also the strength in stating the what is. We don't have to be attached to the ego self part of it, but there is a necessity to tell the truth as it is. And how this is a microcosm of what a lot of people are experiencing, including people of color. And there are people of color that are in power right now that get a bit emotional, like Joanne Hardesty in Portland, Oregon, and they may make everything a race issue, and it may actually sound a little bit annoying, like they have an agenda. And people do get emotional, or maybe their agenda has allowed them to not see things clearly. And it's my mission to help people, especially African Americans, to understand that there are some people in this world that are hated more than them in the United States, that are bombed back to the Stone Age in overseas countries. It's not about somebody being wrong and somebody needing to be right. It's about understanding everybody's situation. It's about everybody's situation. You know, there's certain people that I want to help understand that have been going through this with their own battles with the police, to understand the circumstances that other people are going through. And there is a way in which this system will bring minorities together to serve in the military, and it will bring minorities together to serve on certain House seats and Senate seats. And they might even be Muslims in some cases, but they're pushing through an agenda. Don't act like people that say that they're a part of certain religions just because we're not trying to be offensive aren't capable of corruption. Self-described Muslims, Jews, anybody, Christians. They can all be bought. And they can all come out and play a certain role. Or they could be selected to put out kind of like a model. In the same way that models and porn stars are selected and journalists are selected, you have people that are involved in politics that I believe are selected. But you do not have a society that's like talking about that. It's about the elections being perceived as real. That would be the federal ones, right? They should be asking more questions about local power ties. Each, really, without even necessarily a need for a gang sign, each micro area, including this one, I don't get into the politics of this one. I'm aware of potential corruption in this one, and to pull off certain things in a good old boys network where things go missing and they're never to be seen again, right? That's a certain level of organization. I'm not necessarily saying anything specific, but that there are secret societies within just governments in general, because it's the nature of human psychology to be like that, to stick the hand in the cookie jar. And so within societies, there are people that are going to form their cliques to where they're going to stick their finger in the cookie jar together and have a pact to not tell on each other. And certain things will just be unspoken. They'll just be unspoken. It won't necessarily be an organized conspiracy. It won't necessarily come under a particular order or fraternity or secret society. Yet they could, in effect, act as their own secret society. Here's another example. There could be someone, say, in Washington that ran for office that fell on his face. And all that money, though, in reality went to what? I'm sorry, what? Oh, yeah, a new home. Well, most of the time he lives with his mother. And it's like you come across stories like this, you have people that are following Pied Pipers to where they don't necessarily need to be exposed as in agents. They could be exposed for the greedy, selfish, hypocritical, backstabbing individuals that they are, to where they will use people in their own movement. They will absorb campaign dollars and thousands of dollars in campaign donations because they're playing the guy, they're playing alpha, and then may snort it up their nose while acting like they love Jesus and stuff. And there's variant versions of this, not to drudge the drug addict. Another thing, I overcame shit years ago that today people want to act like they're exposing me for. I overcame hardship years ago. Where's there a world that rolls out any carpet or any microphone to hear Alex's story? So I'm trying to wrap things up here. You have a crisis coming, and you still have people looking in the military for intelligence gathering to deal with this invasion. You know, at some point, and it's going to be like a book, people are going to be like, whoa, we were programmed to marginalize people that weren't white enough, and the very guy, though, that dedicated his life to this was not considered 100% one of us by appearance. And so I would live outside of society as a result. I would be bent by certain issues that other people wouldn't hear about, so it would hurt my algorithm. It would hurt my numbers. It would hurt my growth. It would hurt my engagement and my retention, as we would see flatline growth on Patreon. Would it be your fault? Not necessarily. You would see phenomena like a frozen subscription count stuck at 16, 17, 80, or maybe 81. And they'll hear something that they don't like, and they'll unsubscribe. And then it'll start building back up again, and it'll stop out around 16, 780, again, at the same number. As if, right, there's manipulation. I've never seen manipulation like this so obvious. So obvious, in conjunction with other things. The audience deserves to know. Those people that find this content, that do believe this content is valuable, that found it organically, that want to hear more, that want me to continue. They deserve to hear the truth about this type of algorithm suppression. And it's up to you and in your court, if you ever decide if you want to help me expand this message in ways financially or to help beyond financially, right? There could be like an honorable person one day that has a television studio in the United States that finds me. That's not like the other guy. The other guy wanted your money first. But he also wanted to control the content. It was bad. When he saw the things that I really cared about and I wasn't stuck in the racial illusions of separation, right? He was done with me. And I was set free. And I talk about that story a lot. But I also talk about how in a world where there's so many people with money and bling, you need to know, future generations need to know, inquiring minds want to know, the true nature and state of not only nature itself, but human psychology before the crash. Right? A good mind is a terrible thing to waste. There's things that I continue to share here on YouTube. There's also me wanting to like preserve my body and my life and continue. So there may be some things I go deeper into if I think that things get hot. You know, we'll know sooner than later if there's going to be a coordinated attack on those people that have been discussing certain issues. I don't mean like videos demonetized. I don't mean that at all. And for years, people have speculated the possibility of certain things taking place, right? There are certain signs. There's certain signs. And things are not as they appear to be, right? So from the perspective of several years ago, someone could think that, well, if Alex Jones goes down, that's a sign that the shit is hitting the fan. Well, that's actually more or less a sign that they're trying to get a massive reaction. That it's a big, big move, because he's one of them. And so that would be a sign. It wouldn't necessarily be a sign of the whole shit hitting the fan. Also, keep in mind, we're not necessarily done with the end of the world, right? I think that it's very narcissistic for the American people to constantly refer to the potential of their own invasion, their own karma, as the end of the world. People of color, from people of color to people that are white, they need to hear this message. There is a lot of programming about the apocalypse within our own culture and society. It really takes on its own mythology. Understand that it's the dark dragons or serpents themselves, not to be confused with the other duality that may exist. But it's they themselves that are projecting upon us fear with regards to magnetic reversal. Right? If we're going to deal with the reset, there's something we can do about it. And so there's a way to go about that, and there's a way that someone could fuck themselves over. Completely go nuts, preparing for the end of the world, and they might off themselves. You know, there's no official study that's been done on the amount of preppers that off themselves, or the people that wrote books. They may not have been preppers in the traditional sense, or survivalists, right? But they may have dedicated like a good chunk of their intellectual capacity to talking about the collapse of the Western world. People like Michael Rupert, also the late YouTuber 8-Digit PDX, may he rest in peace. Others that are not on the tip of my... Then there's the passing of Matthew Stein, who's a good chap, who wrote the book When Disaster Strikes, and he left the world knowledge based on his experiences, and he is no longer on the planet. I'm going to try to wrap things up here. He warned us about the sun, and he is no longer on the planet. He dedicated his life to teaching us that if the whole grid were to go down, the nuclear power plants go down, and if we have that go down, we're dealing with a massive depopulation agenda or situation. Agenda if they don't want to fix it, and they know that it's coming. People are going to have to wake up that have had these loyalties to these politicians and realize they're serving another force that's allowing our infrastructure to break down. Real intelligence gathering is gathering intelligence. It's not limited to the military. It's time for military men around the nation and around the state to see value in the content that I have and that others have, and realize the brainwashing that takes place. Even they themselves work with people of color within the military. But the military itself seems to be having a civil war, because there are ranks within the military that are trying to take it into a more overt white nationalist direction. There are people being busted for organizing things within the military at this time. Years of denial about the real state of our system is like coming out. That's the reason why they tried to deliver the message of Alex Jones to the troops early on, to get them acclimated with him early on, as he continued to masquerade as a so-called protector of America. That's why you'll hear him talk about China. They're working over there. You'll hear Alex Jones talk about China and things like this, because he's getting the people ready for war. But he's completely setting his own people up. So people need to start waking up and realizing that if they're going to be prepared, there's literally some workers over there that heard just about everything that I said. You know, and I don't want to scare people, you know, but I realize that it happens, you know, and people are going to be thrown off, and a lot of people are going to have a hard time differentiating between myself and Alex Jones and other people. And I'm here to say we need to come together regardless of religion, regardless of ethnicity. That's the most important thing, though, more so than the other flexibilities, okay? Because the devil's biggest trick is getting us divided by the illusions of separation beforehand, putting out a bunch of disinformation about war, about various nation states on the internet. So by the time people start being curious enough to look shit up, they won't know what to believe, right? It'll all be a bunch of garbly-goo. And ultimately, for their own mental health, some people will choose to just opt out. And I'm thinking more and more about that as well. Opting out from being online as much. I still watch YouTube. I'm selective with what I watch. But I see the future as a world that's truly spent less online. Reconnecting with elements of my own species, other humans. Doing the work now, spiritually within, to attract those positive humans into my life. Because I believe in Source. I believe that Source can unite me. I believe that when some people have donated in my past, there was something happened a few months ago where my car broke down. I was able to get it fixed. But it was only possible because the help of people at the same time, acting in tandem. And that happens once in a while. Well, what if there was a gathering of people in tandem, brought together by the Creator, in the same place at the same time? I'm going to start being more direct in my advice with some of you. It's like street talk. It's like, I'm not an expert. I don't have a PhD. I don't have a college degree worth bragging about, right? I'm just a real person that is giving you like a real opinion that I always felt they were spying on our private messages. And if you want to prepare for some of the things that are about to transpire, do the spiritual work that you need to draw the right people to you in the offline world. There are a few examples, and I gave them in the past, of times in which I believe the Creator sent me angels, or maybe I attracted the angels myself, where I needed to evacuate a situation. In late 2013, I stayed with the wrong girl, and I literally left her place with my stuff, with a pack strapped around, and this was like a wake-up call regarding living with people that you don't know first, that reach out online. There's a lot of bad things that can happen that can destroy a person's life. And so there was some divine intervention that took place where some people appeared that got me to where I needed to be. And at that time, it was winter, it was Christmas, it was 2013, the polar vortex was taking place, and I got